All right, hello and welcome to Swing It and Ding It, an iHeartMedia podcast. This is Moose along with Harry Mays and Danielle Matthews, and we are presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. More on that later when we see the line, but don't forget to use that code DING when you sign up, and also our friends from Mall Chevrolet, who are great sponsors of our golf outing coming up. But today we are joined by Mr. My Philly Golf, Joe Logan. If you play golf in the area, if you know anything about the game of golf in the area, you know Joe. If you've watched Inside Golf and Teed Off, Joe is a regular there. Joe, welcome to Swing It and Ding It, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. Now Harry's a little tired. He was at Michael Rubin's white party in the Hamptons this weekend, but he's trying to get it together. But that's okay. But Joe, talk to us a little bit about, I mean, you launched this in 2009, but you have a pretty interesting career in the game of golf. You've been doing it a long time, longer than us poachers who just started getting into it have done. Talk about that. What, just the genesis of going from writing for the Inquirer to kind of starting your own thing, and what you saw at that time as where this was headed.
Well, in 2008 and 2009, the Philadelphia Inquirer, where I worked, like a lot of big city newspapers, was cutting back on its golf coverage. It had done, because of Tiger Woods, I had gone to a whole lot of places.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of golf because he was just bigger than the game. But all of that was coming kind of to an end as Tiger's career was winding down. But newspapers just couldn't cover the game, afford to, the way they had. And I left at the end of 2008. And so did a lot. I remember there was a story in Golf World that week that listed about 8 or 9 golf writers that were all either leaving their papers or taking buyouts or that sort of thing. And I was one of them. And I knew that golf still needed to be covered in Philadelphia. And so I came up with an idea for a website. I decided that it's time to get out of print. Print was limping along at best. And the internet was surging. And so I went out and came up with an idea and sort of found a business partner who had deeper pockets than I did. We launched it in 2009. And it's still around. I still run it, still do it. It's good. I mean, it keeps me in the game of golf. I still play. I played yesterday. I may play tomorrow. There's a good chance of that. And so it's enabled me to stay close to the game and follow the game and know a lot of the golfers and I'll keep doing it until I can't do it anymore, I suppose.
Yeah, and they talk about, you've been covering this game for a long, long time, many decades, and you saw the genesis basically of Tiger Woods and how it exploded the game. Not only from a TV perspective, but young people wanting to get involved in playing golf. Because when I grew up, it was in the 70s, and it just seemed like your dad wearing plaid slacks and big collared shirts, and it just didn't seem like a whole lot of fun. But once Tiger Woods got involved, it's like, man, this is a cool sport. Talk about that and seeing that sort of evolve.
Well, I know the mindset you're talking about, your dad in plaid pants. I actually started playing. I grew up in a small town in North Carolina, and my dad, when I was about 9 or 10 years old, joined the little 9-hole country club in town. There was nothing swanky or exclusive about it.
I knew that wasn't a Northeast Philly accent, by the way, guys. I just knew it.
And I started going out and playing golf with my father when I was 9 years old. And very quickly got addicted to the game. I didn't wear plaid. I wore shorts mostly. And all of my buddies played. So it was not the whole idea that no one plays golf except rich people. It didn't occur to me until years later when I met people who didn't play golf and was like, oh, okay. But anyway, that's how I started spending time with my dad and then my buddies. And then when I started playing in junior tournaments and stuff around North Carolina, played high school golf and a little college golf and have never looked at. I've been playing 61 years.
Wow.
It's a long time to play golf. I still don't hit it any better.
Joe, playing golf 61 years, covering it for several years, you have to have a really incredible golf story. Since this is a Philly-based podcast, give us your greatest Philly golf story that you have.
Well, for me or for the game, I would say Philadelphia, to me, what it's known for is just this bounty of wonderful, wonderful golf courses. We have this embarrassment of riches. If you look at Golf Digest top 10 courses in the country, 2 of them are within about 25 minutes of where I sit right now in the suburbs of Philadelphia. Pine Valley, the number one by a mile, and everyone agrees to that, is just over into South Jersey, but it's part of the Philadelphia PGA section and the Golf Association of Philadelphia. It's very much a Philadelphia course. And then Marion, number 6, generally, in Ardmore, 20 minutes from here, which most recently hosted the 2013 U.S. Open. And if there were questions about it being out of date or the game having passed it by, I think they answered that in spades, and they have 2 more Opens coming. But if you talk about the history of the game, 2 of the great things that happened in the game also happened at Marion, within about 100 yards of each other. In 1930, Bobby Jones closed out the Grand Slam by winning the 1930 U.S. Amateur on the 11th hole at Marion. That's famous. And then in 1950, what is probably the most iconic photo in all of golf, Ben Hogan hitting that 1-iron into the 18th green at Marion, 1950 U.S. Open. Everyone knows that picture. Him in the fairway. High Peskin shot it. He was a freelance photographer on assignment, and everything. That photo hangs in every pro shop and every golfer's home. Just about it. It was a great photo, great time.
And what is the quote from that? There's only 2 people that can hit a 1-iron.
Well, Lee Trevino used to say, if you're ever out on a golf course and a storm kicks up, just hold a 1-iron over your head, because not even God can hit a 1-iron.
Absolutely.
1-iron in the basement somewhere, locked away where it's doing me no damage and harm.
It's like a butter knife.
Oh yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
Joe, I'm curious to see, because obviously you still cover the game, but it's a little bit different when you're covering it, right, for a major newspaper, right, where you have to have headlines. Have you thought about, if you were still in that role and this live golf whole thing broke, how deeply entrenched you would have to be, and what, how you would kind of cover that in a way to the masses, for the masses?
Well, I'm following it now. I'm not out there reporting it like I was.
Yeah.
But one of my old golf writer buddies is all over it, and Alan Shipnuck, who wrote the book about Mickelson, and he and Michael Bamberg have started, and Matt Janella started the Fire Pit Collective. I don't know if you know that.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But they're all over it, and I read most everything they have to say about it. And I talk to, I still hang out. I just had a reunion about a month or so ago. My old running mates. Hank Gola from the New York Daily News and Ed Sherman from the Chicago Tribune and Damon Haddock, who now on the Golf Channel. We used to share houses like at the British Open and the U.S. Open and things like that. And so we just got together, a few of us, about a month or so ago in North Carolina to play some golf and relive old times following Tiger and Phil and the whole circus. Just like a circus moving from town to town in some ways.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, how has covering the game of golf changed, through your lifetime of it and beyond?
Well, one way that I think, obviously, the media landscape has shifted. Newspapers, for the most part, don't cover golf very much. There's still some magazines and certainly websites and podcasts. The whole growth of podcasts is amazing to me. But to me, one of the biggest things is something you really don't think about usually, and that is that these days, athletes, golfers, and others don't need the media in ways they did at one time. If they've got something to say, they'll say it on Twitter, because they can say it as they want without any sort of filter or anybody putting their own spin on it. And
enter Adam Scott into the chat.
Yeah,
right? He was the latest to take a shot, right? Just on his own social media on Instagram. And then other players started tagging on and adding to it, right?
Sharing it, retweeting it.
Yeah.
Golf Twitter is huge.
That's where the conversation takes place now. And so the media in many ways is left to interpret or react to whatever they say. I mean, Rory, and all these people are obviously very outspoken, and a number of them are articulate. Tiger's articulate. Phil is articulate. Rory. Adam Scott was, I always thought, one of the best interviews out there. All of the Australians were smart and good interviews, and he's right there.
Speaking of that, real quick, just because you mentioned that when you covered it, what were your thoughts of Greg Norman when you were covering? Did you see kind of that descent in him and always knew it was going to be something coming?
Well, he's been famous for this for a long time.
Yeah.
A lot of people believe that the whole idea of the Lives Tour is his revenge. From when he back in the 80s suggested something very similar to the World Golf Championships, and the tour swatted it down and then came out with the World Golf Championships, and he's been brooding ever since, looking for a way to pay him back, and I guess Live is his revenge.
He found the purse.
Yes, he did. But I mean, I always thought Greg, to me, he is also a very, very smart businessman, a good interview, very articulate guy. He's not as popular as some people are, but you cannot ignore him. He was number one in the world for a long, long time.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, speaking of guys who are popular, Rickie Fowler got back in the winner's circle this past weekend after an absence of over 4 years. Why do you feel like everybody says golf is better when Rickie Fowler is relevant, or Rickie Fowler can, shows that he can win? Why do you think that is?
Well, because of his popularity. I mean, you look, how many golfers can you think of that a lot of times they'll show on TV kids, fans behind the ropes at a golf tournament, and invariably you're going to see some kid in an orange hat and dressed up like Rickie Fowler. Well, they don't do that for most of these guys out there. So he strikes a chord. He's young, he's hip, wears funky hats, and has a cool look, and he's popular among the other players. He's a very popular guy, and he's just popular with the fans. So you want someone like that winning to be a face of golf and the tour, rather than these guys who don't exactly light up a room.
Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah.
He's entered the chat.
We'll quickly move past that. And then, Joe, just on the topic of what lights up golf, and with all the controversy with Live and PGA Tour going on right now, what do you think would be something the tour can do to, kind of rise above what's going on, or stay relevant, or make that room light up, for lack of better words?
I would say go back in a time machine and undo some of the stuff they've done.
You think having the final round on live TV might help?
Yeah.
That could possibly help.
I was so frustrated.
It's a start. This whole thing has happened so fast. To me, the surprising thing in some ways in all of this is how the tour had fair warning this was coming, and they had a year to plan, and yet when Live rolled out, it still felt like the tour was in reaction mode, that they were reacting to anything Live did, that they really hadn't planned it out. And then they began to throw that PIP money around, and you thought, wow, I had no idea the tour was so vulnerable to this kind of, not attack, but competitor. Mm-hmm. They are. And then they very quickly apparently wrote too many checks they couldn't cash, and then got themselves into a financial situation. But I've just been surprised at the way the tour has been caught off balance by all of this. And who knows? I mean, this is not a done deal yet. They've agreed in principle to some things, but the federal government is very much looking at it. I mean, on two fronts. One is one of the Senate committees. They want to look into Saudi Arabia, and would it have too much influence on an American institution? And that is before they even get to the issue of antitrust, right? It's another part of the government, and that was in play before this deal. And now it's even more so because whatever competition there was is now being rolled into one entity, and is also, remember, has been a tax exempt entity. Right. That remains a question. And now the commissioner, Jay Monahan, is out, and I've seen nothing that explains, well, what kind of medical condition does he have?
Mm-hmm. Nobody has.
I know, no one seems to know. And Shipnuck, my buddy, the Fire Pit Collective, is not at all convinced that he'll be back. So is he being squeezed out? Who knows what his medical condition is, and is it something he can recuperate from and come back? Right now he's in a tough spot because there are a lot of people who are mad at him, very mad at him, starting with Rory McIlroy, who is not to be sneezed at.
It sounds like an NHL injury report, Harry. A lower body injury.
Yeah, right.
will not return. Right.
No. So it remains to be seen whether this thing happens in the way that it has been laid out. And they're going. It's curious, this meeting they're going to have with a Senate committee coming up. Monahan's not going. The people that are going, Jimmy Dunn. Have you seen that name thrown around?
Yeah.
Who Jimmy Dunn is? He's the president of Seminole Golf Club, which is one of the a handful of elite clubs in the world. He's also a Wall Street guy, gazillionaire, hedge fund, venture capital kind of guy. And he's going in there to do the wheeling and dealing. So that all the tour people sort of stepped back and cleared the way for some guy who's in money bags to come in and talk to the government and cut the deal.
Well, I know one thing that would at least light up the Philly area in terms of golf if the PGA Tour did a change. Joe, in 2018, taking it back to a time machine, you wrote an article after Minnesota got the 3M, which is going to be happening here at the end of July, saying Minnesota was a smaller market, had a shorter season, yet they got a regular season PGA Tour event ahead of Philadelphia, one of the greatest golf cities that we talked about earlier in the pod. Do you think the Philadelphia city will ever see a PGA Tour event?
In a word, no, at least no time soon. It's been talked about. The tour, I can remember, when I was writing about these things, the tour readily acknowledging, Philadelphia is a major market. We don't have it. It may be the biggest golf market that we don't have a tournament, and we'd like one. But that said, nothing ever quite happened. There was a big movement at one point. The cricket club had agreed to host one. They'd even carved out a date for it. They never could find a sponsor. But, we're talking about.
Oh, so it's a sponsorship thing.
Well, it was a sponsored thing. It's $7 million for 5 years is the commitment that a company's got to make. I used to advocate for the Comcast Championship.
Comcast,
Yeah,
right, exactly,
Comcast has that in their couch cushion.
Yeah, what's happening? We might have to get Moose to arrange the next tour event.
I'll take care of
But
it.
if there were to be an event, which course do you think would accommodate best in Philly?
Well,
Where
that's
should
the
give
thing.
Moose with the info that he needs to?
There are at least 6 or 8 or 10 courses around here that could easily accommodate a tour event, starting with Aronimink, but that's a big elite exclusive club. They don't want to give up their course every year. They win majors from time
You
to
could
time.
rotate it to like 3 or 4 different places every
Yeah.
year.
Wilmington.
Or just put it at Rolling Green.
One of the that one too. It's not, in some cases, it's not so much the course that accommodate it, but the grounds around
The build out. Yeah.
I mean, just having the TV there. I mean, they need to have.
Well, that's why
Waynesboro.
Wilmington was great because it's just like middle of nowhere.
I went to that, and as
Yeah.
I walked around there, I kept thinking, God, I had forgotten what a great club and course this is. It's
Beautiful.
It was a giant, big scale. You go to these big events like that, and the courses, for the most part, have this just larger than life scale about Pinehurst, Pebble Beach, and around here. Actually, the cricket club course that was going to host that event, or that was made available, was the Militia Hill course.
Right.
Not
Oh, wow.
the West Hicken course.
Right.
Aronimink could do it. Liberty Hill, or whatever the one of the old Ace Club is.
Liberty Hill, yeah.
And Rolling Green could probably do it. I mean, you could just go on and on about who could potentially host it.
Well, what about the new Cobb's Creek if this eventually does get built? I mean, I don't know what year. Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah,
Because I know that's the idea, is to maybe bring a tour event here.
Oh yeah, I did hear that.
It is. I mean, will that happen? I don't know. That's a in a big city neighborhood, and most of these events are out where there's buses and parking and all kinds of stuff. That if they pull that off, if they pull off this $65 million renovation and get a tour event, that will be one of the biggest accomplishments ever in golf.
You just wrote the headline.
Good luck with it. I mean, right now is meeting all the kind of, I mean, they're making headway, but there's also resistance among many of the neighbors who feel like they're building this giant thing. They're changing our landscape, our backyard, and there's a ripple effect throughout the neighborhood. So there are people who are still resisting it, but it's making progress. They're working on it. So I've seen nothing to me that would halt it or delay it overly badly. So I think it's coming. Just a matter of how long it takes.
Yeah, we're supposed to have pretty soon in the next couple of weeks Ben Dewan, the golf course superintendent at Cobbs Creek, on as a guest. So we'll get some more information at that time and see where things go.
Get the inside scoop.
Yeah, I know with Tigers affiliation with it, with the schooling they're putting in there, there's a lot more than just the golf course. So very curious to see where this goes. It kind of like it was when we first started this podcast a couple of years ago. We had people on. It was like right at the height of all of the talk about it. Then I guess with the pandemic, things kind of slowed down, and now it's picking back up pretty heavily.
Well, the whole thing started when a couple of guys, Joe Bausch and Mike Serba, had this Friends of Cobbs Creek. These are guys who are just golf course architecture geeks.
Yeah.
And they'll readily acknowledge that.
Oh, yeah.
Love to play golf. And they walked around and, got the idea that this could be redone, restored. And from there, their little idea grew and grew. And then, guys with money and connections got in the picture, and it's grown into this colossal event thing, that's much bigger than their little idea is grown to a point that it is great. So we'll see.
I don't know what that bell was.
I was like, is that an Amber Alert or something? What's going on?
Turkey stuff.
Well,
Joe, listen, we thank you for finally coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You coming on the show. Make sure you're following at MyPhillyGolf and head to myphillygolf.com to check out all that Joe does. Check him out on Inside Golf with our buddy Harry Donahue, where he has some incredible insights on a Sunday morning. And we really bad. Harry's on there as well too, right? So that seems to be a pretty steady thing now, Joe. It's the start is like just a one-time guest, and then just Harry just dug his hooks in and had to keep it going.
If you show up on time, sober, and know what you're talking about.
Sober's the key.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll have you back on, I'm sure, soon, as the stories in golf do not seem to be dying down anytime soon. So appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Joe.
See you.
All right, guys, let's take a quick break, and we will be right back. All right, and welcome back to Swing It and Ding It. Great to have the great Joe Logan on. Harry, Joe Logan's been a part of the Philly golf scene for a long time, long before it was popular in a way, right? And is kind of stuck through it and always has some great insights that he shares. I think I was on a panel one time with him too on Inside Golf. Really good dude, man.
Yeah, that's how I got to know him, was doing the Inside Golf teed off segments over there most times at Lulu Country Club. And, we've been trying to work this out for quite a while. And then once we got it worked out, we had to get the technology worked out this morning, but we all got it done. So
yeah, I thought I was going to be the problem with living in Haddonfield. It looks like a war zone. With all
tell
the trees
us about
down,
that. What the heck happened over there?
Yeah, they think that a small tornado touched down, like literally half a block from me. When I was driving home we were at the Legacy Club all day yesterday. By the way, they did an incredible job with 4th of July. Keith and his team over there just had a blast, stayed for dinner, and it poured, right? It was just like, they started sounding the alarms on the golf course, but it wasn't really windy over there. And as I drove back into Haddonfield, I'm like, I had to get out of the car multiple times and move trees to get back to the house. And
wow.
Yeah, they said it was the most amount of trees down ever from a storm. And one street, this street called Wood, which is a little side street, it literally has 6 trees in a row down. Yeah. And they think that's where a tornado touched down. I sent you guys a picture. Neighbors a half a block away, they were moving in yesterday, and now they have a tree that's split right through their house.
Wow.
Yeah,
so,
welcome to the neighborhood, right?
Crazy. So we talk about, we said it a couple weeks ago with these greenskeepers and golf staff puts up with. I mean, they are just they're getting hit with it with these storms, but pretty crazy. But a storm in the form of a little orange dressed man came through Detroit. But when you think about it, we knew it was coming. We didn't know when. He wasn't pressing in a way from what he said. But here's a guy who had 13 top 20s in his past 15 starts.
Yeah.
So this is not like a fluke, like, hey, he just popped up and won. The 34-year-old Rickie Fowler at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, his first win since 2019, which was the Waste Management, which is pretty funny. He led 54 holes of the U.S. Open, came in 5th. Travelers, he came in 13th. You knew it was coming, but even watching it, right? I watched the end. Again, it wasn't on TV. He looked like a guy that was trying not to lose and was trying not to win, not trying to win, but trying not to lose. But then he squeaks his way into a playoff.
Yeah.
And you have Adam Hadwin and Colin Morikawa who just stripe it down the middle of the fairway, and Rickie puts it in the concessions.
Yeah.
Like he's over getting a hot dog. And you're like, oh, that's over.
Yep.
And he
gets a drop.
Sticks it. He gets a drop and sticks it.
Yeah.
The other guys are in the middle of the fairway and birdies it for the win. And I don't know if I've ever seen, when Jordan Spieth won after he hadn't won in a while, like you saw that like kind of relief, but move on. Like it wasn't a fist pump. It was a sigh. It was like,
his caddy was way more hyped than he was.
Yeah.
He literally was
real
just
hype.
kind of like, and caddy was like, let's go.
Yeah.
Ricky was just like, oh my goodness, finally.
Yeah. But Harry, tremendous tournament. I mean, it sucks that for people that aren't too tech savvy that, couldn't just flip on the TV and watch it. That was a huge miss by the PGA Tour, but
so annoying.
incredible event, and congratulations to Rickie Fowler.
Yeah, congratulations, his 6th PGA Tour win, and it's been a long time. We predicted that this would happen when we had our episode way back in the winter with the coach Jonathan Coachman, where we were giving predictions. We all pretty much agreed that Rickie would knock it down this year. And you mentioned all the top 20s. I mean, he's been knocking on the door, but that 72nd hole he needed birdie when he did not make a the birdie on the 2 par 5s on the closing 9. You're thinking, oh, he blew it. Like I'm thinking, because I'm playing golf at the time, and one of the guys I'm playing with, Dan, had it on his phone, and the reception was not that great, but he's given us like stroke by stroke updates. And he said, oh, Rickie just parred the par 5. I'm like, he's done. Like, because Morikawa had birdied it, and Morikawa was 8 under heading to 18. And I'm thinking, wow, this is over. He blew it. He makes birdie on 18 after he almost pulls his tee shot into the hazard. He was just a couple of feet away from being in that little hazard that divides the fairways there, and then sticks his iron shot and makes the putt. And you're like, wow, we got a playoff. So, and then I'm like, where's a TV? And then I realized it doesn't matter if there's a TV because it's not on. What an outrage. Like this whole thing got so screwed up because of the weather. But man, he pulled it off. Morikawa was 8 under that day. It's good to see him playing well again.
8 birdies on Sunday.
Yeah, because he's a guy who hasn't won in a couple years, like what, 2 years? I think it's been since he
since the Open
has won. But you had a playoff, you had drama. It was pretty cool, and seeing those kids, they kept showing those 2 little boys. They might have been brothers. I don't know. They looked alike. They might have been twins, dressed like Rickie. And when Adam Hadwin, I think, missed the putt, the kid goes, yeah, like he was all fired up because Adam Hadwin missed his putt for birdie.
Adam Hadwin was clapping for the win, though. He wasn't getting too close. He didn't want to get tackled again, but he just lost in a playoff, and even him, you could tell how much people really like this guy. And Danielle, is that what you hear throughout the golf circles too? That he's just a likable, human being.
Yeah, I mean, generally in the community, I think, community of Jupiter, if you will, he's a liked guy. There's a couple spots him and his wife will, go for brunch, and he's not like the rest of them, I guess. He's just a likable guy, like you said, and like Joe was saying earlier, whoever was his agent at the time through college, they branded him correctly, that even if when he wasn't having success on the course, he was having it through his endorsements and making money that way. But he's just a likable guy. He's a dad. He's a husband. He's, just happy. And it seems like everyone down here just seems to root for him. It's an easy guy to root for.
Yeah, and I think he might have locked down a spot on the Ryder Cup team.
Yeah, he moved up to number 23, right? With his
got to be a captain's pick, right? If he doesn't work his way into the
he may be taking his boy JT's spot. Let's face it. I mean, there might be some room.
Well, I jinxed him. I took him in one and done, and sure enough, he comes out of the gate looking, awful, and then played reasonably well on Friday, but couldn't, make enough ground to get back into the cut. So that's my fault.
When you're playing good golf, you're playing good golf. When you're not, you're not. We've seen the JT roller coaster over since the U.S. Open, really, right?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, like, I'm usually not this person, but I just, the course did not show well to me on TV. Like, it just looked like a muni to me. I don't know why. Like, I don't know if it's the angles or the fact that it's kind of tucked in where it is, but
It's very
it
dark.
just didn't impress me, right? As far as like, dramatic holes or anything
Yeah.
like that. It's Detroit, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's Detroit.
I know.
You could try to
The
sell it
course
all
is
you
actually
want,
nice. I was there last year. I wasn't there this
Yeah.
year, but I enjoyed it last year. I thought it was it's a really nice club, but it probably just didn't
yeah, it didn't
right.
show well on TV.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I know what you
every
mean.
holes like looked the same.
Yeah.
Right. There wasn't really much,
Underwhelming. Yeah.
yeah.
Plus all
Yeah.
that red, like the grandstanding being red to me, I don't know, kind of adds to it. Like maybe if that was white, like most of the other events are, it kind of brightens it up. It seemed very dark
Yeah.
on TV.
I agree. But yeah, I mean, some interesting guys that popped up, and a couple guys that had a chance that played really well. Some of the young guys that are continuing to play really well. So I think it's matching up, and obviously we're 2 weeks away from the Open, so going to have a little bit of a fall off this week with John Deere. But yeah.
What about, you said young guys playing well? Peter Quest Monday'd in.
Yeah.
He actually played in our group in Dallas at the Byron, but he has no status, and he continues to there's a handful of guys who will just continue to try to Monday and gain status that way. And Peter Quest is one of those guys. Where did he finish at, like ending up like T9 or something like that?
I think he was a top 10.
Yeah.
Monday
he
played really well.
Finished top 10. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the live side, you have Taylor Gooch with another win. Talk about an interesting conundrum for the Ryder Cup.
Where's he stacking his money?
Like, do you want that guy on your? I don't know. He seemed to have rubbed a lot of people the wrong way throughout the process. He seems like a strange little guy, kind of fella. But
yeah, he was a surprise in the beginning that he went over. I remember getting texts like, "Wait, Gooch is going over."
Right.
Yeah, they played
stacking
that
up wins.
They played that event at a very famous golf course, one of the most famous golf courses in all of Europe, at Valderrama.
Oh yeah,
that's Sergio's home away from home.
Sergio missed Open qualifying. This is the first time he's not playing in the Open in I think like 12 years or something like that. What he missed by 3. I might be off on my numbers, but I saw that come through Golf Tweeter.
Yeah, and we're getting dribs and drabs. I mean, Joe talked about it with the coming up with hearings and whatnot, but there's some documents that get leaked, and it brings up Tiger Woods' name and what the script that he was supposed to say, and then Tiger's like, no, I didn't see that. I didn't.
I've never seen it. He's like, it was supposed to be presented to me at a meeting at an event that I wasn't even at.
He wasn't even at the meeting, right?
Yeah, that's what he tweeted. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Moose summed it up good. He said Tiger's response was like, what, 35 words or less?
Yeah.
35 you have that handy to read to the listeners?
Yeah, I just pulled it up. Yeah. He said, in response to the talking points memo released this weekend, I have never seen this document until today, and I did not attend the players' meeting for which it was prepared at the 2022 Travelers. So they may have prepared it for him, but he didn't seem to ask for it. And I don't think Tiger is the kind of guy who's going to read a script either, right?
I'm sure a lot of people prepare a lot of things for Tiger, and it doesn't even hit his agent or anybody else on his team.
To summarize, it was basically just bash the crap out of Liv and the Saudis. Like that's what the PGA Tour seemed to be asking him, which runs in line with the communication during that time, right? They didn't hide that. They were pretty out there trying to, they felt like they were in a war, and they were trying to insulate themselves. And then they just, let's face it, they just put up the white flag at some point and just said, you can't beat them, join them.
I feel like lately it's just been like, we're trying to be like, oh, look, we found this. And it's like, okay, like if there's competition, a business is going to do what they can do to try to knock out their upcoming competition. But really, we still don't know anything more than we have since the initial news of the potential merger. Even that doc that we touched on last week, this slight news, if you want to call it that, just because it had Tiger's name on it. We don't know anything else. No. It's the same thing.
Yep.
We're trying to make news out of nothing.
Yeah.
More questions than answers.
Yeah, we still don't know.
TBD. How about Bernhard Langer?
Wow.
German engineering at its finest. Knocks down not only the 46th PGA Tour Champions win, which now moves him into first all-time ahead of Hale Irwin. I don't know if anybody's going to be able to catch that record.
Ever.
I really don't.
I'm glad he's finally hitting his stride.
Exactly. But he's 65 years old. It gives us hope, Moose. I mean,
sure does.
I turned 58 last week, so I can identify with Bernhard's age, but it's his 12th major, on PGA Tour champions, which is also a record that I don't know if anybody's going to be able to knock down. And I did some research on him. I didn't realize this. I mean, I know he had the 2 Masters wins. He only has 3 PGA Tour wins. 2 of them are Masters. But he's second all time in European Tour wins.
No.
Oh, wow.
Second all time.
To who?
So,
Seve?
Seve.
Seve's one.
Yeah.
Wow.
How many
interesting.
wins?
In the 40s.
Wow.
On the European Tour. Yeah.
That's insane. And then 3 tour wins?
3 tour wins, 2 of them are Masters championship. Yeah.
Damn.
I mean,
unbelievable.
Impressive.
Career.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Do you think he anchors the putter, Harry Mace?
No, I don't. I really don't. I think he kind of just hangs, puts that.
I don't see any
fist
depression.
right in front
I don't
of
see
his
any
sternum.
depression in the polo.
No, I don't.
Yeah, some people like to break it down.
So annoying to watch.
Who cares if he does, right? Then you do. Then you do it and see how many putts you make, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
If that's going to help anchoring it.
Yeah. You still got to stick it
Sternum.
in.
But that golf course looked pretty slick. That Century World place.
Yeah.
Century Insurance, of course, was a big sponsor of golf and PGA. They sponsor the Champions event over in Hawaii every year, and that golf, they built that for their employees back in the 80s, and that place looks slick.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
It's nice to have a course built for.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, all the employees, I built you a golf course.
And now we move to another interesting event and an interesting golf course, the John Deere Classic TPC Deere Run in Illinois. Again, it's 2 weeks before the Open Championship, so you have some people taking it off. The top player in the field is number 19, Cam Young. It's always a low-scoring event. Denny McCarthy was the favorite. Now he just bumped out of the favorite behind Henley. So
he's out there shooting hoops.
Yeah. Last year posted one at 21 under. Very important par 5 scoring, but it's all about hitting fairways and then your short irons. So this is one where I think you can make a little money if you're gambling on it with the DraftKings Sportsbook. But what do you think about the John Deere? How are you a John Deere guy?
I am a John Deere guy. I like this golf course. Again, reminds me, of a golf course that looks fun to play. It's sort of like the one back in Hartford area a couple of weeks ago in Connecticut, which is another TPC course. But this is the old Quad Cities event, and D.A. Wybring, former tour player, and a guy named Chris Gray actually designed this course. This was part of the property of John Deere. Like they owned all these massive farmlands, and like one of the founding, like the relatives or one of the family of the John Deere lived on it, and it was a horse farm. And they were like, well, if we're going to be a sponsor, we want to make sure that you don't decide to pack up and leave PGA Tour, because then not only are we going to lose the event, but then the people in the area are going to hate us. So how about we build you a golf course? And they got the land and they built the golf course. And to me, it looks like a super fun place to play. Like you said, you got to go low. A lot of birdies are to be had there. Typically, the scores are in the low 20s to win. And you mentioned Cam Young as the highest ranked player. He's kind of pulling a JT of what JT tried to do last week. It's a guy that needs to sort of get his year sort of kick-started here, because he hasn't really been playing all that well since finishing T7 in the Masters. And of course, he finished second in the match play way back in March, but it's been a while since Cam Young has put up a good week. So he's looking to do that as the highest ranked player. I'm going to stay away from him. I don't want to jinx him because we know that's what I do, but this is a cool place to play. I think it would be a great place to play.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And Mr. Matthews is in Illinois. Is that correct, Danielle?
He is. I was going to fly out there, but there's no direct anything. So I'm going to go out to Kentucky for a little bit next week before flying into Philly for the swinging and ding it.
That's right.
I thought she might have been in here last week, but it turns I got my dates mixed up.
So I said to him, I was like, I texted the group. I was like, yeah, I'm sitting at Turtle waiting for it to open so I can hit balls. But he thought I meant Turtle up there.
Yeah.
So he's like, hey, do you and your girlfriend want to play with us? And I was like, yeah, for sure. Because he's like, the Saturday. I assumed it was a Saturday for the outing. So I text Gabby. I'm like, yo, you in? Saturday morning, we'll play, get a little practice, round, if you will. And then Harry texted me later that night and he's like, you guys still good for tomorrow? I'm like, tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
I'm in Jupiter. I was like, Harry, I thought you meant the Saturday before the outing. So I felt so bad then because I was like, oh man, I committed.
Is the time booked for the Saturday before the outing though? Is that happening or what?
Oh, we might have to get that on the books.
We can always do that. Yeah, we can always do that. What would that be? The 15th,
7 a.m.
July 15th?
Get some dew on the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, because 17th. Yeah.
Yeah, 15th. Yeah. We
We'll
could
make
do
sure
that.
we have the time and date correct. Let's get
Yeah.
first time out if we can.
But yeah, you mentioned like Denny McCarthy. I mean, he's one of the favorites. You mentioned Henley
Yeah.
just popped in ahead of him, but is this his breakthrough? Is Ludwig Aberg, is one of these young guns. He had a humdrum weekend in Detroit, but he got out to a great start and made the cut. Eric Cole is also getting a little love, for fantasy lineups, especially this week. This looks like a good place for him. And Adam Schenk, who has played well all season long, a couple of top fives, top tens. Midwest guy, be a good story from Indiana, winning in Illinois. So there's a lot of good little storylines here. I'm looking for it. Plus, Michael Thorbjornsen and Gordon Sargent are also the two amateurs teeing it up, two young guns. Sargent played last week but missed the cut. I think he played with Brandon, right? In the same group.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, the last winners. You have where is it? You have
JT Poston,
right? You have Lucas Glover, Fratelli, Michael Kim, and Bryson. So you have a pretty wide variety.
It's a mixed bag.
It is.
It is.
10 of 13 of the last winners that played in this event the last year and made the cut. So it is a familiar kind of thing. It seems like. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. If we want to move into see the line, we could go do that. So. But as we know, guys, from tee to green, the best place to go to get in on all the action happening on the links is DraftKings Sportsbook. This week for the John Deere, just like any week, new customers will receive an odds boost to add plus 1,000 to any pre-tournament wager, up to $10 on any golfer to win. DraftKings will be featuring parlays and odds boost all tournament long, so be sure to check out the DraftKings Sportsbook app every day before the tournament starts to see what they have in store. We talked about JT Poston. I do like that Eric Cole number at 3,500, or even in a matchup. I'm taking a look at him. But also a guy like Patton Kizzire in 4 starts. He's never been outside of the top 30. So I don't mind that number. But the bottom line is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DING and boost your odds during this week's tournament. That's code DING only on DraftKings Sportsbook. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 1-800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-HOPE-NY. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
We need to get like when we say ding, we need to get like a little ding noise. We need to get some type of music. We're leveling it up each week, but we got to incorporate some music or something here. Get a little ding.
Couple other thoughts to round out the see the line. Ryan Moore, he has a win here in 2016, T2 in 2021, only one miscut in 10 starts, T24 in 22. So somebody to really take a look at.
Be a good lineup guy.
Oh yeah. Yep. Henley, whose number just went up, right? Because he was second in 2019. So it's a little tough to do that. But how about a guy like Fratelli, who's won here? Even in a top 10, you get him at 2,200, right? He's a past winner. So why not take a look at him? And then Sam Ryder's jumping out at me for some reason in the top 5 at plus 2,000. So that's what it looks like.
I think it's been a while since Fratelli played well, but it's a long number. But you talk about Denny McCarthy. He was 6th here last year, and he's got 3 top 10s in his last 6 starts on the tour. So coming in great form. Be great to see him break through. I'm taking him in a top 10 at plus 200. I don't want to jinx him. Adam Hadwin, this would be a great spot for him to keep up what he did last week. Plus 2,800 to win, I think, is a pretty decent number for him. And Schenk, plus 3,000 to win. He withdrew back in 2022, but he was 4th in 2021 at this event and 6th in 2019. So obviously it's a golf course that he plays well on. Plus 330 for a top 10. You mentioned Cole, Jaeger, and Aberg are all top 20 plays for me at plus 165.
Beautiful. Danielle, anything jumping out at you in this week based on the course and the players in it?
I'm riding the Harry train and his thoughts and what I thought the last couple of weeks as well. I think
don't take
Denny,
my one and done though. You'll miss the cut.
I like your top 10 with Denny with a top 10. I think that's probably one of the safest bets that you can make. I always say when you're playing good golf, you're playing good golf. He
Mhm.
seems like he's having a great time. He's happy. He's fun. He's out there. He's shooting hoops again.
Yep.
He's just enjoying himself. He took a week off last week. I think he's going to be refreshed, ready to go out there, looking to continue playing well and eventually get that win. So I like him in the top 10 as well.
Awesome. Love it. We talked about the golf outing coming up, which I'm doing some beer pickup this week. We have our Arnold Palmer Spiked is going to be involved. We have Workhorse Par Punch that's going to be involved. So
Nice.
have to do some running around and get some more of the prizing and stuff that we have for this thing. And also I'm meeting with John DeMarco over at the course on Thursday to go through all of make sure I have enough, closest to the pin measuring tape, all that.
Are you setting the pin locations?
I don't know about that. Maybe I am. I'll have to see.
Well, I'm sure you've gotten to know some of those ornery pin locations on some of those greens by now.
I haven't
right?
found too many that I like, to be honest with you. But Harry, our friends from Mall Chevy will be there, of course, a 2023 Silverado for a hole-in-one, a 3-year lease. And we love our friends at Mall Chevy. Let's face it.
Absolutely. And for 8 years in a row now, Mall Chevrolet, they've been South Jersey's #1 Chevy dealer. Now, of course, it could be because they treat their customers right. That's why Mall Chevy was voted top 100 dealer in the country for customer satisfaction. But I kind of still think it's because of that motto. We sell Chevys for less. Find your perfect drive at Mall Chevrolet. Visit Mall Chevrolet on Haddonfield Road, right in Cherry Hill, across from the Cherry Hill Mall, or online at mallchevy.com. Find your perfect drive at Mall Chevrolet and mallchevy.com.
Tremendous.
Yeah. Don't forget, the women have a U.S. Open at Pebble Beach this week. I might end up watching as much or more of that as I do the TPC Deere run and the John Deere, because Rose Zhang is the favorite. She's been on tour for a month and for 6 weeks, and she's the favorite.
Twitter was blowing up because her tee shot, the tee went back and landed in her back pocket with the yardage book. And everyone's like, she's so good. She doesn't even have to pick up her tee. Oh, it's hilarious.
That's like a trick shot.
Oh, it was funny. She didn't even notice. It just like scoop and right there next to her.
Plus
her
1,100 to win. That's like almost Rahm numbers, right?
I know.
Like he's like 9 or 750, but you can hop in on Nelly Korda at plus 2,000.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's
Leona McGuire's playing really good golf at plus 2,000. I would take a shot at her.
Yeah.
I don't love Nelly, for anyone listening who's trying to get back in there. She just returned after an injury, miscut. She's, I think, maybe mentally not fully prepared, ready to go. I'd stay away from throwing money there.
Wow. Love that. Now, how about that play right there? Fade Nelly Korda. I love it.
I love it.
Put her on the to miss list this week.
I love it. All right. Well, we'll be back next week. We'll have more of kind of our final breakdown for the golf outing, and then we'll be live from the golf outing, on the 17th. So really looking forward to it. Again, benefits the Magical Mula Foundation. Learn more, head to their website, see what they're doing, look for ways to get involved. We're proud to be partnered with them, and really looking forward to everything else that we have going on. And we'll be back next week.